Today we're in San Diego to drive the all-new 2023 Toyota Prius. And, spoiler alert, it doesn't suck. We check out all the features and take it for a drive right now on Driving Sports TV. The Toyota Prius has long been favored by eco-conscious buyers that don't really care about ride quality, performance, or even looks. For many Prius owners, the whole benefit of owning one was sticking it to big oil and letting all your friends know that you are doing your part to save the planet. But with the increasing popularity of battery electrics, vehicles that do not require any petrol whatsoever, the Prius started to lose its street cred. So for 2023, Toyota did something revolutionary. They redesigned the Prius from the ground up. This fifth generation Prius looks better, it has close to 200 horsepower, so it's faster, and it also has class-leading economy, if that's something you're interested in. At launch, the Prius will be available in 3 trims, LE, XLE, and Limited. You also get a choice of either front or all-wheel drive. Price as you see it here with a few options, $37,445 US, including destination. Considering that the average sale price of a car in the US is currently $48,000, that looks like a pretty good deal actually. Under the hood of all trim levels is a 2-liter inline 4-cylinder that produces up to 150 horsepower. It's combined with a 111 horsepower motor generator for a peak combined output of 194 horsepower. If you do opt for all-wheel drive, you get an extra 40 horsepower motor in the back. There's no drive shaft. This is similar to the all-wheel drive setup in the RAV4 hybrid and the Sienna hybrid. But because powertrain math is weird, the combined peak output of the all-wheel drive setup is only 196 horsepower, 2 more than the front-wheel drive configuration. That is a huge improvement over the outgoing model's 121 peak horsepower. Of course, the all-wheel drive on the Prius is targeting improved starts on slippery surfaces and better handling on the road. It's not for off-roading, since the LE only has 5.6 inches of ground clearance and XLE and Limiteds top out at 6 inches. The battery for the hybrid system is a compact lithium-ion located under the second row. Across all trims, economy is phenomenal. The front-wheel drive LE has the highest rating at 57 city and 56 on the highway. All-wheel drive trims lose 4 mpgs. Because this limited trim has all-wheel drive and 19-inch wheels, it only gets 49 miles to the gallon in the city and 50 on the highway. Like the previous Prius, this new one uses a planetary-type continuously variable transmission. This Limited has a power liftgate, which is nice. Also behind the second row, you get just a little bit more than 20 cubic feet of cargo capacity. Now, if you get the lower trim, the LE, you actually have a little more cargo space because this one includes an organizer tray made out of white foam. No, that is not packing material, that is an organizer tray. Fold the seats down for larger objects. Checking out the second row. You know, this seat is really comfortable. It's almost sculpted to my undersides, which kind of fits in nicely. I don't have a ton of headroom. I am 6'1", legs torso proportionate, and yeah, I'm bumping there. Also not a lot of room for my size 12 feet. They don't really fit under the seat there. This is where I would be sitting if I were driving, and it's a little snug. It also has 2 sunroofs with a manual blind in the back, making the back seat very light and airy. We do get a fold-down armrest with integrated cup holders, seat warmers, and then 2 USB-C sockets. So that's nice. Okay, up front, it's a cabin very similar to the BZ4X, which we drove several months ago. That is, of course, Toyota's all-new battery electric. And they've definitely taken a lot of the same ideas and put them into this new Prius. We have the gauge cluster that is kind of situated behind the steering wheel, not my favorite place, so I have to put the steering wheel very low to be able to see it clearly, although it is further back and more in my focus plane with the vehicles in front of me. So it actually, I can see the safety excuse for doing it, but overall, just the placement, not my favorite. The steering wheel is also rather small with a lot of buttons. Actually, That's a lot of buttons. I can control the little multi-display up on the left there. I can go through all the different options, looking at everything from power distribution to safety, and this is fully loaded with the Toyota Safety Sense 3.0. This particular trim has lane departure alerts, blind spot monitoring, collision mitigation, rear cross traffic alerts, pedestrian detection. It also has adaptive cruise control, and yeah, you can figure it out. This thing's pretty loaded. I also get a heated steering wheel at this trim level, which is kind of nice. And over here, they gave me buttons for some of the more critical features that I'm going to want to play with on a day-to-day basis. My aircon, I get some nice switchgear there. I also have buttons for both heated and cooled seats. Yes, limited trims get cooled seats. Nice feature. Beneath the buttons, there are two USB-C sockets. One is for integration into the infotainment, and the other is just for power. And then next to it actually is a 12 volt, which I'm glad to see. A lot of new cars are kind of skipping on that. And then there's a tray that you can pull out if you want to keep things clean. That's right in front of the cup holders. Now there is a lot of piano black around here, but it's not in any of the high touch points. Things like this bin are using a more flat plastic, which I think works well. So hopefully you're not touching these, although I can see this one, it's enough that you'll probably get some scratching. The screen we have here is the upgraded 12.4-inch unit. It is a touch screen, so I can just kind of touch everything as I like it, and it actually is using the latest in the Toyota Lexus family infotainment, which was developed actually in Plano, Texas. This is a good cloud-based system that allows you to do everything from navigate to the nearest coffee shop.
The closest coffee shop is Kenny Coffee at 1555 Camino del Mar number 106. Would you like to go now?
The buttons could use a little improvement. Things like Go Now and some of the other buttons, they're kind of small and hard to find. I think as they develop this system, it'll get better and better. This is the 1.0 version of the system basically, and they can do over-the-air updates, so this could be improved in the future if they actually put those updates out. You can also integrate your mobile device with Apple Music, and you can integrate multiple devices, and all of it can be done wirelessly. Yeah, so you can do Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, it's all wireless, and we've done that with multiple Toyota vehicles. Once you do get connected, you then just drop your phone in there, and that is the Qi wireless charger, which is nice. I love that positioning of it. You can't see the screen, but that's kind of the point. You're supposed to be looking up here. And like other vehicles, you can integrate multiple devices into the system. So you can have two, a primary and a secondary. Moving on down, we have the gear shifter here, and you have everything from reverse, drive, and battery. The B is a stronger battery regen. If I go into reverse, changes up here, there is now an available surround view camera system, so that's what we see here. And then of course we get a backup camera with guidelines. So that's nice. There is an EV mode. It's pretty much useless. It's for basically tooling around town, like under 25 mile per hour and like 10% throttle. Anything else shuts off immediately. It's a very small battery. It's not designed to be used as a battery electric. We do get several drive modes, everything from sport to normal to eco. Those all kind of are what they sound. You get a slightly tighter steering wheel in sport. You also have more aggressive use of that electric power for acceleration in sport, but nothing's going to really set the world on fire. They are all very similar in the way that the vehicle responds. The seats are very comfortable. They're sculpted and they distribute my weight very well. They're power adjustable, and of course they have both heating and cooling, which is nice. Now you cannot get this in leather. The only leather they option is a synthetic type, and it's actually quite nice. It's very soft to the touch. It is called Softex, so I guess that's not too surprising. Okay, well, we've taken a look at most of the features. Time to take it for a drive. But first, I'm gonna go pick up somebody. Well, I'm finally behind the wheel of the all-new 2023 Toyota Prius, and I have to say, I'm pretty excited. Of course, nobody has said that in the history of the Prius, but I am, really, and it comes down to this.
It's actually a fairly exciting Prius.
I know, right? So joining me today is Tom Voelk from
Driven Car Reviews.
With Tom Voelk.
Yes.
Now, I've known Tom for, wow, over a decade now, maybe?
A long, long time.
We've both been doing this a very long time.
Yeah, and we've just never really shot together, so this is a treat.
So you'll see this review on Tom's channel where Tom's driving, and then this channel, you'll see me driving. Hello. I am behind the wheel right now of the 2023 Prius Limited all-wheel drive. This is the top spec trim, and you're looking at a little over $35,000. I'll put the actual price up on the screen here of this trim. And what you get with this one is actually quite a lot. I mean, all of the Prii have close to 200 horsepower.
Yep.
But this one also has the 19-inch wheels, which means that you also lose a little economy in the process. Because what's the economy on this one?
49 mpg average.
Right. So if you want the maximum MPGs, you need to go with the front-wheel drive LE, which is the base trim with 17s, and that one will get you 57.
Yeah, but
57.
I would go for this one just because I prefer some bells and whistles.
Yeah.
The LE is kind of basic.
Heated seats, cooled seats. We have the synthetic leather throughout the cabin, which is really nice. We get the larger display. This is a 12.4 inch, I believe, but it's using the new Lexus/Toyota infotainment system that they're starting to put on everything, and I actually do rather like it.
Yep.
For a 1.0, I think it's a very good system. I do wish that they would have more of a multimodal view here, though. I don't always want to just look at a map.
Yeah, it doesn't really have a home screen.
No, which is weird.
It's all voice commands. So you say, hey, Toyota, I want to go to In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah. Hey, Toyota, set my temperature to 75 degrees.
Yeah, it works. It works pretty well.
It didn't work.
Oh, well.
Hit the button.
It's camera shy.
Set my temperature to 75 degrees.
Setting the driver's temperature to 75 degrees.
I was looking for a volume knob, and the volume knob's over here.
Yeah, it's a bit of a reach.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Also, the Limited has the upgraded sound system.
Oh, yeah.
Me being a music guy, I would have to get that just because of the upgraded sound.
Yeah, but is JBL really that upgraded of sound?
Well, it's better than the bass system.
Okay, that's
You
true.
know?
I am not a sound guy, so I'm like, does it have speakers? That's good. Now, I like this interior for the most part, but I think there's a few misses here beyond just the lack of a home screen over here. This gauge cluster, it's the same cluster that we basically saw in the BZ4X. It has the same exact screen, and for me, it's the same problem. Now, this one is a little bit higher, so I don't get the steering wheel directly in front of it, but it is small. It's a little far back for my preferences, and I know they do that so your focus plane is closer to the vehicle in front. You're not like focusing up here, then focusing out there.
Yeah.
But I don't like it.
Yeah. There's also a lot of wasted space right there.
Yeah, well now if you have a cat or a small dog, you could have them curl up on there, and then they'll fly out the window when you first take your hard right. And with this vehicle, you might find yourself taking some hard rights because it actually handles pretty good. I mean, we're just on the road here. I do a little twitchiness, and you can feel that kind of tension in the suspension. It's not like doing roly-poliness, and we were blasting through some canyons, and it's doing fine. Now, not a sports car.
Nope.
And in spite of the fact that it has all-wheel drive, it's not an off-road machine.
Nope.
But let's talk about that all-wheel drive system. You drove the previous generation all-wheel drive, didn't you?
Right, and it's got a very mild back motor. I think it was 7 horsepower.
Yeah. Barely a motor.
This one is significantly more powerful.
40 horsepower in the back alone.
Yeah, and that's the one thing about this one. Right off the bat, you notice this generation Prius is much more powerful.
Yes.
It's much more satisfying to drive.
Absolutely. You're not in the penalty box for driving this one.
No. And you feel good about driving it because on the outside you know that people are actually admiring the styling.
I know, they're not like the looks of that previous one. I hated it, honestly. It was brutal. It was, speaking of penalty box, you drove around. You lived in a penalty box in that thing.
I kept walking around that car and looking at it and thinking,
trying to find one good angle.
What were they doing? Right. I mean, even, the overall shape wasn't all that appealing, but even the details, there were lots of seams and there were lots of uneven surfaces that I just couldn't understand.
The interior looked like, a toilet, basically. It was all curved porcelain style plastic, and I'm just like, this is hideous. This one, I don't think anybody's going to have any problems being seen in this. when you put your phone in, you obviously can't see the screen, but it just drops in and it aligns. Sprinkler. It aligns perfectly. You don't have to like jostle it around to get it in that nice charging position. That's a really nicely thought out piece right there. They could have called it something else if they wanted to, and people would be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But, you know, Prius is a very strong brand. It is known as a hybrid. I know there was a lot of discussion as to whether the next generation Prius will be a battery electric, you know, a traditional electric car, or if it was going to maintain hybrid status. And, yeah, I mean, the Prius is known as a hybrid, and they're obviously going to carry that forward.
And I think it's smart. I think going forward, once Toyota does come out with battery electric vehicles that are pure EVs, they need to come up with its own halo in that regard. I don't think that the BZ thing is it, because it is such a cumbersome name.
It is. The BZ stands for, of course, Beyond Zero, which they now have these little icon badges on other vehicles, kind of like Jeep does Trail Rated. This one has their Beyond Zero Rated, which is basically their electrified vehicles. They get this little round badge. Everybody's so hot on like badging and Easter eggs and all this stuff. Honestly, I just want a nice car. I mean, those little things don't do anything for me. They do not move my needle at all.
And let's not forget, electrified doesn't mean pure electric.
Oh, yeah, very good point.
It's so confusing, and sometimes I think that's kind of intentional.
Right. I think definitely intentional.
Yeah.
Electrified to Toyota basically means that it has some electrification component. It is not a pure petrol vehicle. So hybrids, plug-in battery electrics, and straight electrics are all qualified as electrified. So when Toyota says that by 2025 they're going to have 40% of their fleet electrified, they mean that they at least have a hybrid powertrain.
This will be a plug-in hybrid eventually.
Eventually, yeah, next spring.
And you know what? I like electrification. There are all sorts of advantages. The low-end torque that you get from electric
low-end torque
motors
is the number one right there.
It's excellent.
Yeah. Now, this does have an EV mode, but like the former Prius, the battery is so small in this thing, it's really for parking lots or sneaking into your house at night. Those are the two use cases.
I've never understood the EV mode on this. It goes like maybe 3 or 4 blocks.
Yeah, and if you tip in the throttle beyond like a quarter, it just cuts off immediately.
Yeah.
It's like it's useless.
Yeah.
But when they finally come out with the battery electric version, which is the Prime, in the spring, that one will be a full-on electrification for probably 30, 40 miles. We don't actually know yet, but when they announce it, it'll be at least full electrification no matter how fast you go for a set amount of miles, and then the gas motor kicks in as necessary. Let's talk about regenerative as it applies to this vehicle. I'm going to put the brake on. It feels like a brake.
It's seamless.
Yep, which is one of the highest praises you can give to a regenerative system. You know? It's like, I'm not feeling the transition. It doesn't have too much bite. It's smooth.
Yeah.
Now we'll feel how it is from a start here at the stoplight. Now, Toyota says that they give you a little extra battery kick so you don't get the rubber band feel with the CVT. So let's floor it. Yeah, I can feel that electric kicking in, and then smooth.
Yeah.
Now the CVT in this isn't the traditional CVT as a lot of people think in a negative way. This uses the planetary gear set, which is actually a better system. It's a more direct feel than you'll get in a lot of other CVTs.
Yep.
And I, honestly, the transmission is the last thing that I worry about with this vehicle. But not everything is perfect, of course. A couple issues I do have with this vehicle. The windshield is so raked. I feel like any dust or dirt on it, I'm just going to be looking through, because once if you're like this, you look through very little of it. But when it gets dirty, if you start angling it, you're looking through like 3 feet of dirt before you get to the outside of the vehicle. I can see some dust here, and already it's kind of bugging me. Also, this windscreen is so far back against my face. It's a little weird feeling. Something else I'm not particularly fond of in this vehicle. It's like it doesn't sound good. Also, the interior is gray on gray on gray. I think they could have been a little bit more exciting here. But I do like this little light accent in the dash. That's kind of neat. And this like faux carbon fiber is kind of cool.
I mean, the interior, considering the price point of this vehicle, it's not a Lexus.
If you have the expectation of a Prius and you jump into this, you're like, this is actually a nice car.
This is surprisingly attractive, especially when you consider what it used to be.
Now for me, I love the fact that they put a proper all-wheel drive system in this that's shared with the RAV4 and all those vehicles, that it actually has proper drive to the back.
Yes.
The old vehicles didn't have that. And we're not going to do a trail test with this vehicle today because it's not designed for that. It does not have a trail mode. It only has 5.6 inches of ground clearance on the LE trim, and this one has 6 inches of ground clearance, which actually, funny thing, this vehicle has more ground clearance than the Mercedes-Benz E450 all-terrain.
Seriously?
Seriously.
Wow.
Which is nuts, and that's not a knock on this car, that's a total knock on the Mercedes-Benz. Moving on, I do like the all-wheel drive system. I think the power output is good for this type of car. If you were to commute every day, it's comfortable, it has the features you want at a price point that I think is good.
And you won't get all sweaty palms when you go to pass a slow moving RV
you can
on
do a
road
60-mile-per-hour pass. Oh, there's something else I want to talk about here, and that is the safety system. This has the TSS Toyota Safety System 3.0, which is the latest version. It supports everything from blind spot monitors, which are standard across the board, rear cross traffic. You get the surround view as an option, but the rear backup camera obviously is standard across the board. It also has collision mitigation. It'll also do lane detection with adaptive cruise. Let's go ahead and turn that on, and we'll pace the car in front of us. There's a lot of buttons here, and I'm trying to figure out which button I need to do here. Oh my gosh, where is that? Let's see, turn it on. I think that's it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so they could be a little clearer on the buttons. This will, of course, mirror the vehicle in front of us. We have this really cool element with a surfboard on it in front of us. And basically, it'll pace the vehicle in front of us, and it also does lane detection as well, and that's a separate button. I turn it on, the vehicle will actually curve with the road. Now, obviously, it's not an autonomous system, so they want you to put your hands on the wheel because it is only level 2. It requires the driver to be engaged at all times.
Yes.
But it's a very good system. I've tested it on numerous other Toyotas, and I have no complaints for something being included like in every trim level of Toyotas these days.
Yeah.
It's like great. Why does BMW and Mercedes still charge through the nose for this? I don't. Well, I know why.
Because they can.
Because money.
Yeah.
I think that's a good time to wrap up our first drive here in San Diego of the 2023 Toyota Prius. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit.
And I'm Tom Voelk with Driven Car Reviews. Check out my channel. I know that you love Ryan. Of course you do, because he's awesome.
Thanks, Tom. And I'll be in Tom's review of this vehicle as well, so you can kind of see how we do different things with the same vehicle. That's kind of always fun. I always enjoy that as a producer to watch, see how different, same basic stuff yields different results. Anyway, be sure to like, subscribe, share our videos. We make them for you, and I do hope you enjoy them.